Good afternoon, everyone. Our webinar will begin momentarily. We're just going to give some people some time to log in and just wait for more people to come in. So we'll start here in about a couple of minutes. All right, it is 4:02 and I think we already have some participants coming on. So we are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar today. So good afternoon, everyone. I just want to welcome you to our Muscogee Youth Wellness webinar series. My name is Jasmine Buckley. I am the Youth Services Specialist for the Muscogee Nation Youth Services. Everyone should be muted for the presentation, but if you experience any issues, feel free to send us a message in the chat and we'll assist you in any way that we can. You can also ask questions during the presentation, and you can use the chat feature down below. Chat feature down below if you have any questions or just want to interact with us. Throughout the presentation, if you have a question for either me or the presenter, there is a Q&A button down below, just a little bit besides the chat button. You can use that to ask your questions. We prefer to use it that way just so it won't get lost in the chat if we have some people who are very interactive on the chat. So just go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A and then we'll get back to those because we actually have some time at the end of the video where we're going to go back through and ask our presenter today to answer those questions for you. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live, you can communicate with us by commenting. And again, at the end, we'll look back through those comments and we'll answer those questions for you. So we just want to thank you for joining us today. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about our program, Muscogee Nation Youth Services, and just a little bit of what we do. Our mission is to empower Muscogee youth by connecting to culture, community, and resources. Our program goals include to foster advocacy, which we work to connect and engage youth with leadership, education, training, and other opportunities on a local, state, and even national level. Another program goal that we have is to provide resources. Youth Services provides resources and referrals to support young people in meeting their goals. Additionally, we work to support youth taking an active role as a resource for their peers, community, and the nation. Our next goal is to promote civic duty. Muscogee Nation Youth Services works to provide voter registration and educational activities that promote political engagement and advocacy. Just recently, in the last Creek Nation election, we actually had some of our youth council members, me being one of those, that helped out with a forum that was held at Dewar Indian Community Center. So we always like to present those opportunities to our youth to be active politically and engage in their community. A next goal that we have is to encourage wellness, which is what we're doing today. We provide education, training, and activities on social issues affecting youth. We develop healthy activities and promote the concept of culture is prevention. And last, but certainly not least, is creating support. We focus on developing formal and informal mentoring opportunities and working collaboratively with youth and youth serving agencies. So those are just our main goals that we have within our program, and that we always try to use whenever supporting our Native youth throughout the nation. So our Muscogee Youth Wellness presentation today focuses on the goals of encouraging wellness. This project focuses on improving overall wellness and connecting with the Muscogee culture. Today, we are focusing on physical wellness, more specifically on nutrition. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Torie Seymour from the Muscogee Creek Nation Diabetes Prevention Program.
Thank you all for having me today. And like you said, we're focusing on overall wellness. And I know you guys have a lot of topics coming up about other topics for the overall wellness. And so for my piece of it, I'm going to just focus on the nutrition side. As a registered dietitian that works here at the Okemah Clinic within the diabetes program, that's what I focus with for all of my patients, from youth like yourself all the way up to our elders. I help them in a lot of different ways on how to be healthier and for prevention of chronic diseases or from developing other conditions as well. So I do a lot of different things with my patients. And today we're going to learn some tools that we can put in our toolbox to make those healthier choices. So we're going to learn together on how we can find what the healthiest choice is, either at your house or in the grocery store. And then we're going to kind of practice that at the very end today. And if you guys have any questions, please chat that in the box and I'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to just learn some information to get started with the tools. There we go. Okay, so now you can see my screen. I'm going to advance it here. So getting started, we're going to look at reading the nutrition label and seeing how that can help us with making the healthier changes. So for the nutrition label, it has changed, and you're going to start to see this new version. So compared here is going to be on the left is the original label or the old label that you used to see. And then on the right is the new label. Now with everything going on, the new label was supposed to be out by the end of last year, but they've postponed that date. You should be able to start seeing this new label more often when you're grocery shopping. And what are some things that you guys can see that are a little bit different here between these two labels next to each other? Some of the things that we can see on here are the serving size and the calories are bigger, bolder. So you can see that the serving size here is bolder, bigger than it was on the old label, and the calories are bigger and bolder. So your eye is drawn to the top of the label. So you want to always start with the serving size first and then progress down the label. So we want to make sure we're looking at that serving size first. Also, something that's different is the total sugar and added sugar. So the total sugar now details the amount of added sugar versus natural sugar that's occurring. So natural sugar is found in our fruits plucked right off the tree. The apple already has natural sugars in it. Or milk right out of the cow already has natural sugars in it, but then we can add sugar to our foods and our drinks, such as with chocolate milk. It has natural sugar from the milk straight out of the cow, but then we might add sugar to it to make it flavored like chocolate or strawberry milk. So that's an example of a drink that has natural and added sugar in it. And we want to make sure that we're having more of our sugar coming from a natural source is going to be healthier than added sugar. We want to try to limit our added sugar. Next, that's different on the label is some of the nutrients. So down at the very bottom of the label are going to be our vitamins and minerals that we want to get more of. And these have changed over the years since the first label came out. So we know we want to try to get more potassium and vitamin D. So those have been added to the new label so that we can focus on trying to get more of those as well. So these have replaced vitamin A and vitamin C that were on the old label. Some serving sizes have been changed as well to reflect a more normal portion, and we're going to talk about those portion sizes later on. But companies like to trick us with the serving sizes and making the serving sizes smaller, which we'll look at some examples later on when we're playing a game, so that the rest of the information below looks better. So now that we know the difference between the original label and the new label that you'll start to see a little bit more, let's go and look at some of the more information down that's listed on the label. So starting or lechichitra, we'll look at the serving size. So the serving size is circled on this label here, and it does not indicate how much you should eat, hompita, or drink, iskada, but instead allows us to see how much and what nutrients we will get from consuming that amount of the food. So when we're looking at this label here, it has the serving size is 2/3 of a cup. So that's what we're looking at for if we ate 2/3 of a cup, this information is going to have 230 calories, for example, for that 2/3 of a cup. Maybe you ate more of that. Then you're going to have to calculate higher amount for eating more of all the information that's listed. Or if you have less, then you would have to do some math to change it that way as well. So some math is involved in looking at this, but you can kind of get an idea of, okay, if I had less than 2/3 of a cup, it's going to be less than these numbers listed. If I had more, it's going to be more than the numbers listed here. So using this information to figure out the nutrition facts from the portion sizes, you can choose to out of that food. Sorry, I'm readjusting my screen here. Technical difficulties, hold on. So when you're comparing two labels, that's what we're going to do when we're at the grocery store or even at your house, is looking at two items that are similar and comparing them to see which one's going to be a better choice. But you always want to start with that serving size to see if the items are comparable. So if both of the items are 2/3 of a cup, you know they're going to be the same amount of the item. So then you can look at the rest of the information. If one's 2/3 of a cup and one is a cup serving, then those serving sizes aren't going to be the same. So that rest of the information is going to be different. So you'll have to make sure that those serving sizes line up first before you look at the rest of the information. Okay, so another way we can look at the amounts, so looking at, like, say that 2/3 of a cup that we just had in that last label, well, how much would that actually be? So looking at a different way of looking at servings is going to be using this hand method as a tool just to help you. So I like to use this hand method because we always have our hands on us, right? We don't always have like a measuring cup in our back pocket, but we have our hands on us. So this can help us with looking at those serving sizes. So for most proteins, they're going to be about 3 to 4 ounces, or the size of the palm of your hand. Ingi, so that's going to be about the palm of your hand serving size is going to be for your protein foods. And this can be your meat, your fish, your poultry is going to be that palm of your hand serving size. So that can help you with how much you're going to have at each meal. Next, it's going to be our fruits and our vegetables. Mainly are going to be about a cup serving. A cup is siskira. And so this could also be cereals, soups, casseroles, salads. So mostly our fresh fruits and vegetables, and then some of our other items like our cereals, soups, casseroles, that kind of thing. Our fats are going to be 1 teaspoon or the tip of your thumb. So like where your nail is on the tip of your thumb. And this is going to be for your butters, your margarines, mayonnaise, and oils. These are going to have more calories per gram for the smaller amount of it. And so that's why it's a smaller amount. And we want to choose more of the healthier fats like the oils versus the butters as much as possible as well. The grains and sweets are going to be about 1/2 cup, and that's going to be the scoop of your hand. So the scoop of your hand is going to be that 1/2 cup serving. So if you scoop your hand, that's going to be about 1/2 cup. And that can also be for your pastas, rice, beans, potatoes, ice creams, puddings, like I said, the sweets, and then cooked vegetables. So our raw vegetables are going to be 1 cup, and then our cooked vegetables are going to be about 1/2 cup. Condiments are going to be about 1 to 2 tablespoons, and they're going to be the full size of your thumb. So the fats were the tip of the thumb. Now we're looking at the full thumb size, and that's going to be for like your salad dressing, sour creams, cream cheese, peanut butter, hard cheeses, that kind of thing are going to be about that 1 thumb size. And then our chips and crackers are going to be about 1 ounce, and that's going to be about the size of 2 hands kept together. So 2 of your scoops of your hands put together is going to be for your chips, your crackers, your pretzels for that 1 ounce serving. So that can help you with when you're looking at the serving sizes and knowing how much that's going to be. That can help you out for your meal planning. Next is going to be figuring out your fats. So when looking in the box here on the right on the label, we can see we have first is the total fat, including all the fat in the food and that comes in the form of a saturated fat, trans fat, or healthier fats, which are our monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats. So the unhealthy or bad fats are going to be our saturated and our trans fats. We want to eat these less often because it's going to increase our bad cholesterol in our body that's going to block up our heart, that can lead to a heart attack or stroke. So we want to decrease the amount of these. And then we want to have more of our good or healthy fats, the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. So of the fats we eat, we want these to be the healthier fats. Now, if you notice on the label here, it doesn't have the mono and polyunsaturated fats listed, right? Well, the total fat is 8 grams. Saturated fat is indented over, so that's part of that total is 1 gram. and the trans fats are going to be 0. So we're missing 7 grams of fat here. Where do you think that might be coming from? Well, it's coming from those healthier fats, the mono and polyunsaturated fats that aren't listed. So of this food item, who knows what it is, it's going to have 7 grams of that total fat is coming from a healthier source versus that unhealthy source, such as the saturated trans fats. So that would be a healthier fat option. But we want to shoot for the fat to be lower amounts. So even if it's a healthier fat option, we still want it to be a lower fat as much as possible. So 3 grams of total fat per 100 calories is going to be considered a low fat food. So we want it to be closer to about 3 grams per 100 calories. The American Heart Association recommends no that more than 6 to 7% of calories coming from saturated fat. That is 13 grams on a 2,000 calorie diet, which is what most nutrition labels, the information is based off of, is a 2,000 calorie diet. That doesn't mean it's necessarily everybody has to follow that 2,000 calorie guidelines. That's just what the label is based off of. So if we look at the saturated fat on this label, it's at 5%. So that means that no more than 6 to 7% coming from saturated fat. So that's a good thing. So now we're going to go into that trans fats. It's a man-made fat. So it's not coming from, say, like an animal like it would be in milk. It's going to be made in a factory or a lab. A recommended trans fat intake is 0 grams per day. So we always want trans fats to be 0. If there is less than 5.5 grams of trans fat per serving, the label may still say 0. So that's kind of a tricky way of why they might decrease the serving size as well, so they can get under that 0.5 grams of trans fat, so they can list it as 0. Reading the ingredient list, you can find this out. So even if they do that where they decrease the serving size to trick you, you can find if it still has the trans fat by reading the ingredient list. So under the nutrition label, it will start saying ingredients and then list out all the ingredients in order by how much it is. So the first ingredient is going to have the most of that ingredient in the food item. And here are some words to look for to see if it has that trans fat added in the ingredient list. Is going to be hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. So those would be keywords to look at in the ingredient list. Next, we're going to look at the sodium, which is highlighted here on the right. So for most people, it's recommended to have less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. So we would want to add up all of our foods that we ate throughout the day and how much salt we added to those foods to see what our total day's allotment would be and shoot for that 2,300 milligrams. And that could be salt that's already in the food or that you added at the table as well. A food is considered low sodium if it has less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving or less. So that's what we want to shoot for. If you can see here on the right, this one has 160 milligrams. So that's over the 140 that we want to shoot for. If the percent daily value is less than 5%, this is a low source of sodium. And that plays for any of the percentages that you see on the far right-hand side. If it's 5% or less, it's going to be a low source of that item. So this one has 7%. So that's going to be a little bit higher than considered a low sodium choice. If the percent daily value is over 20%, that's going to be considered a high sodium item. So if we look at the added sugar down below on the right, that has 20% for added sugar. So that's going to be a high added sugar food item. If the food that claims to be reduced sodium may or may not be a low sodium item. So what reduced sodium means is that it's just less than the original. So it may be low in sodium, may not. That's why we have to read the label to find out. So next in the right, we have highlighted the total carbohydrates. So the total carbohydrates are what's going to affect our blood sugar, give our body the energy that it needs. But we also don't want to have too much of that carbohydrate because that's what's going to raise that blood sugar, which can increase our risk for diabetes or higher blood sugars. So when we're looking at these total carbohydrates, the different things that are included in that total are going to be the sugar, other starches that can be like, say, flour or a starchy vegetable, and fiber. And fiber is important. We want to get more fiber because it's going to make us feel full for longer. It's going to help with our digestion. So fiber, and it can also help with our cholesterol levels, like we were talking about earlier, to help with our heart health. So fiber is going to be great to make sure we have enough of. So we want more of this total carbohydrate to be coming from that fiber versus the added sugar. So under the total sugar, you can find out how much sugar was added to the product during production. It is best to limit foods that are higher in added sugar because they are more likely to raise your blood sugar. So we want to have more of that sugar if it has it in there, to be from a natural source, and have more of that total carbohydrate coming from fiber as well. So that would be a healthier choice. So instead, choosing carbohydrate foods that are higher in fiber versus the added sugar. So next, we're going to talk a little bit more fiber. Fiber is located under the total carbohydrate, which makes up part of that total. The grams of fiber is included in the total grams of the carbohydrate for the food. If a food claims to be a good source of whole grains, this will be a source of fiber. So that fiber is coming from that whole grain in the food. Also, checking the label to determine how many grams it contains. A food can be considered high fiber if it has 5 grams or more per serving. And this one's 4, so that's close to that 5. Total daily fiber intake should be about 25 to 35 grams per day. So if this food item only has 4 grams of fiber, we're going to have to eat a lot of it before we can get up to that 25 to 30 gram for the day, right? So if we can try to increase our fiber intake for each of the items that we eat throughout the day, that's going to help us get to that goal faster. And like we were talking about earlier, using that rule of thumb of the percentages, so 5% or less is going to be low, 20% or more is going to be high. We can see the fiber is at 14%, so it's getting closer to that higher range of that 20%, which is a better choice, but not the highest option we could choose. So now we looked at the label. Now we're going to look at meal planning. So looking at your plate. Here's an example of a plate. We want to choose half of our plate more of the non-starchy vegetables that are going to be lower in those total carbohydrates we just talked about, higher in that fiber we just talked about. So these are going to be non-starchy vegetables and going to give us a lot of nutrients, a lot of those vitamins and minerals our body needs. Next in the purple is going to be filling fourth of your plate, that palm of your hand size, remember that we talked about, is going to be about 3 to 4 ounces of that protein. And this can be an animal or plant-based. So that could be chicken, beef, fish, beans, nuts, legumes. Those are all going to be protein sources for this category. And then in the orange is going to be those total carbohydrate containing foods. So this can be your starchy vegetables like corn, potatoes, beans, hominy, green peas, sweet peas. It can also be fruit, like we talked about. Plucking that apple right off the tree has that natural sugar in it, which is going to contribute to that total carbohydrate. And then also milk straight out of the cow is going to have that natural sugar in it as well. So that's going to have carbohydrates in it as well. So not only like our breads or pastas, that kind of thing that we normally think of for our starches, but also like our fruits and our milks are also going to be in this category. Still important nutrients that our body needs. Is just going to affect our blood sugar as well. And then a small amount of fat, such as the margarines or oils that we talked about as well, that are going to be that tip of your thumb size. Those are going to be also added as like condiments or when you're cooking the food usually, or dressing. So like say Italian dressing on a salad, that's going to be some of that healthy fat as well that you would have on your plate. So now we're going to play a game, and I know I can't hear you guys, but I want you to play along at home, and I'm going to show you some items as well. So we're going to look around Hobiatara, your house for a food or drink item that has a nutrition label on it, and we're going to look at some labels together. So find a label nearby. It could be a drink you're drinking. It could be a food item in your kitchen. Go find some nutrition labels that you can look at and play along with me as we're looking at some. So I'm going to look at some items that I have here. And we're going to first look at some macaroni and cheese. That looks yummy, doesn't it? Is it something you guys like to eat at home, is some macaroni and cheese? So we're going to look at the nutrition label on this, and we're going to look at the serving size and see what the serving size is for this macaroni and cheese. So if you look at the very top of the nutrition label, the serving size for this item is going to be 1 cup. So if you found an item at home, look at your nutrition label and see what your serving size is listed for that food item. Now, if you are having this macaroni and cheese for dinner, what food group do you think that this would be considered for? So if you're looking at this plate here, what food group do you think this macaroni and cheese would fit in? It's mainly going to contain the pasta with cheese on it, right? So this was going to be probably considered a grain part of your meal. So you would still want to try to make sure you added a protein and some vegetables to go along with this food item, because this is going to be the grain portion of that plate. Next is going to be this food item. Have you guys seen this food item before? This is a star fruit. So it's a tropical fruit. And you can see this is what it would look like at the grocery store if you just picked it up. And then once you slice it, it turns into stars, which is kind of cool. And you just eat the whole thing, kind of like a kiwi kind of, and it has a kind of sweet and tart flavor. So if we looked at this star fruit and the nutrition label for it, 1/2 cup is going to be the serving size. Now for fruits, 1 piece of fruit, so if you just had a piece of the star fruit, that would be 1 serving. Or if you cut it up and put it in a bowl, it would be 1/2 cup serving. So that would be your serving size for your fruit. So looking at this plate, this would be considered part of the starch, because it's going to have that natural sugar in it from the fruit, right? And fruit is going to have lots of good nutrients in it and higher in fiber, especially when we eat it with the skin on like we would for the star fruit. So that would be a great choice to get your fiber in and get some nutrients for the fruit as well. Next, we're going to look at this top ramen. Is top ramen something you guys like to eat at home? This is a quick meal that you guys can make just in the microwave, huh? So we're going to look at this nutrition label now too. It's sideways, so I'm going to look at it sideways. So for this top ramen or ramen noodles, this package has 2 servings in it. So 1 serving is going to be 1/2 of the noodle block. So 1/2 of this container is 1 serving. There's 2 servings in this container. Now, I know most of you are probably not going to eat only 1/2 of this package, right? You're going to eat the whole package or maybe 2 of these packages, right? I know most teens, that's what you would normally eat, right? You're not going to just eat 1/2 of it. You're going to at least eat the whole package. And that's something the companies like to do to trick us, is to decrease the serving size so that the rest of the numbers look better. For example, on this ramen noodle packet, one of the things that's really high is the sodium amount. So the sodium level on this ramen noodles for the whole package, so that would be 2 servings, is going to be 780 milligrams. If you had 1 serving of it, it would be 250 milligrams. So if you didn't look at the serving size and you just looked at that 250, you're like, oh, that's not bad. But that's only half of the package, and you ate the whole package. And that was actually 780 milligrams, and that's 33%. Do you guys remember how much sodium we're supposed to have per day and limit to? So we're supposed to limit it to 2,300 milligrams per day, and shooting for that less than 140 milligrams of sodium for that food item. And this one is going to be 780 milligrams for this whole package. So that's way over our total amount, isn't it? So I hope you guys were able to look at some food items in your house and play along with me and look at what food group that would be considered in as well. So hopefully these tools that we learned by looking at the portion size, looking at the label, and then looking at the plate as well can help you with making healthier choices while you're grocery shopping or while you're making a plate of food while you're at home as well. So Mojo, thank you so much for having me. Here's my contact information on the screen, and I would love to answer some of your guys' questions on Facebook or in the chat box as well.
Thank you, Torie, for that presentation. That was really informative. I learned a lot of stuff. I really like the hand servings. I never thought about using my hand to, figure out what servings sizes that I need to use. So is there any questions that anybody has for Torie? You can put them in the chat again, or like I said, the Q&A. Of course, anybody who's on Facebook, you can comment and we can answer those questions for you.
If you guys played with any of the food items at home as well, and you wanted to ask any questions of the food items you looked at, let me know as well. That'd be fun to hear what you used as your food choices that you played along with.
Gina Powell, she says it was very interesting and informational.
Great, thank you, Gina.
Anybody else have any questions or any comments? Let's see.
I see some questions on Facebook. Nancy, thank you. Regina, how much protein do you suggest kids eat a day? So I know we have a wide variety of kids on the call, and that's going to also depend on the student's weight, their activity level. So that would be a great question. You can always give me a call or email me. My information was on that last slide. You can always pull it up. I'm here at the Okima Hospital, and you can call me up and we could set up an appointment, or you can just ask me specifically about your student. But that growth rate is so wide that it's going to be a big variety for that protein intake. So if we can shoot for making sure we have a protein source, like I said, a plant-based or an animal-based at our meals and snacks, then that could be a great way to make sure you're getting that protein incorporated in throughout the day.
Anybody else have any questions? The floor is open. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, none in the chat or in the Q&A. Oh, Nancy shared your email, your contact.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, well, if there's not any more questions for Torie, before we go, I just want to go over some upcoming webinars that we have for Youth Services. So let me pull that up for you guys real quick. Okay. Some upcoming webinars that we have is our Muscogee Youth Wellness Weekly Workouts. We do this every Tuesday at 4 p.m. We broadcast it on our Facebook Live at Muscogee Nation Youth Services. It's just part of our Muscogee Youth Wellness Days that we are doing virtually this year. And we do a workout ranging anywhere from between 15 minutes to 30 minutes. We have boot camp style, we have Zumba, we have yoga, and just different things that we know that the kids could do, and even their families. You're more than welcome to join along with your youth that you have in the home. All of these are beginner friendly. I know they are because I do them too, and I know I'm not that advanced when it comes to doing some of the exercises, but they have been really great and really helpful to me. And so we encourage all Native youth and their families to join us every Tuesday. It lasts all the way up until March. March is our last month where we will hold our weekly workouts. Next, we have our spiritual wellness webinar, which will happen on Wednesday, January 20th at 4 p.m. And I believe our presenters are Mark Randolph and Galen Cloud. They will be the ones presenting on how to take care of ourselves spiritually. I know I'm excited for that webinar, and I'll be joining along with everybody else and learning some tips to help me take care of myself when it comes to spirituality. You can register for that webinar at muscogeeyouth.com/event registration. Muscogee is spelled traditionally. So again, we encourage everyone to join us and to learn some new techniques and some new tricks on taking care of yourself spiritually. So again, we would like to thank everyone for joining us, and thank again Torie for being our presenter. That was, like I said, very informative, and I learned a lot of new things that I could implement in my daily nutrition and to help me, live a healthier life and take care of myself. So you can contact us at our phone number at 918-549-2557. You can also email us at youthservices@mcn-nsn.gov. Feel free to visit our website. If you go to muscogeeyouth.com/events, that would take you straight to our calendar where we always post any upcoming events that we are hosting. We also put in other events that any other Creek Nation programs are doing. From there, you can just, like I said, take a big look at our calendar, and you can click on the date, and you can even download it and save it to your own calendar, so that way it'll set a little reminder for yourself. Also join us and look us up on our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We even have a Snapchat, and now we have a TikTok. So that's a new thing for us, and we hope you guys will interact with us. Our handle is at Muscogee Youth, and that's for all of our social media. And so again, we thank you. And whenever this webinar closes, you will see a link to begin a survey to give us some feedback. How did we do today? Was there something that something new that you learned? How was the presenter? Even rate me. How was me being your little MC today? We value your input so that we can continue to improve our services and to offer more webinars that may interest you and Native youth, and just whatever you have in mind and that you're interested in to help us to support you. So thank you again, guys, and we hope you have a good and wonderful night.